Welcome to Dory Cote on Shamanism, a weekly podcast that explores one theme in shamanism throughout each month. Get comfortable, have a seat, and let's get started.
Welcome to today's podcast. We're going to be speaking today about omens that you might experience when you're traveling. This is the last in a series of 4 podcasts on the topic of omens, and we will be doing this again in the context of questions and answers. So let us begin.
Dory, how can we identify omens when we're traveling, especially when we go to a different culture or a different place where everything is new and different? How do we determine what is omen and what is just new?
Yes, well, when we're traveling, we are, as you say, for the most part, we're putting ourselves in new surroundings, oftentimes with flora and fauna, that we're not familiar with, in nature, if we're in a different climate. We might be in a place where people are speaking in a different language or with a different tone in their voice. We might be in a completely different climate where there is lots of humidity, but we're used to a really dry place. So there's so many different changes around us that what's important for us to pay attention to is how are we seeing and experiencing the newness? And how are we tapping into the spirits of nature, the spirits that are showing up in our dreams in this new place, the spirits that are showing up in our hotel room or in the home that we're staying in this new place that we've traveled to, and give ourselves lots of elbow room to allow the expansion of the omens that we're experiencing. Because, for instance, if you go someplace and they happen to have a shrub that has leaves that are all heart-shaped, then the first time you see that shrub, you might say, oh my goodness, look at this amazing bush and look at all the hearts. What an incredible omen. And then you recognize that, these bushes are common in this place, and so perhaps it's truly not an omen that you're seeing them everywhere because they're common. The difference is if you see that same bush in a particular context, and while you're sunning yourself out on the patio at this resort that you're at, you're looking at this bush that is covered with, leaves that are in the shape of heart, you recognize that the whole bush has the shape of something else. Let's say it's the shape of a broad-based feather. Then that might be an omen because the whole bush is in an unusual shape. Not so much that the leaves are heart-shaped because that's common in that place. The other thing is that you might experience patterns in the carpeting of the hotel room. You might experience a different sensation with the different waters that you're showering with. You may experience a heightened alertness or awareness to the spirits of the rocks, for instance. It gives me a pause to think about a time that I visited Sedona, Arizona for the first time. And the energy there, the vortices are so powerful that, my head was swimming most of the time that I was there because the energy was so palpable. And there are so many omens in the rocks. So the rocks themselves have really, really powerful energy, but within the rocks are numerous potential omens. And when you're in that kind of semi-altered state of being very relaxed because you're on vacation and you're experiencing sun and the soft breeze and all of that, it's very easy to begin seeing shapes and forms in the natural world as well as within your hotel room and, you know, in the dreams that you're having when you're away, because you're in a very, very relaxed state and you're open to the spirits of this place that you're at, which may be different than the spirits of the place where you generally live. So all of that comes together in a way that may open you up to some very different omens than the ones that you may see repeatedly when you're home.
When I was a child, I used to play Find the Shapes in the Clouds. And so I could find a shape anywhere. But that's not the same as receiving an omen. Is that correct?
Oh, I would say it is the same as receiving an omen. I would say that 3 people could look at the same cloud and see 3 different images. I know that to be absolutely true. Now, if you point out to somebody, let's say there's 3 of us lying on a grass somewhere here in Maine, and we're all looking up at the same cloud formation. I may see a turtle, and you may look at that same cloud and see in the center of the cloud the perfect shape of a baby's face and not even notice or even see that the larger shape of the cloud is a turtle. And then the third person might look at that same cloud formation and see a whale swimming in a particular direction, and that whale is actually part of one of the legs of what I'm seeing as a giant turtle. So we're all looking at the same cloud formation, but each one of us is tuned into a very different omen. And that's why I'm saying when you're traveling, you see, you have the opportunity to see different kinds of things than what you might see at home. Here in New England, we don't have those expansive skies. We have so many trees and mountains and hills that the big sky is not generally something that we get to experience. So if I travel to the Southwest, then the omens that I begin to see in the sky might be very different than the omens I see in the sky here. And that's what I'm really talking about when I say paying attention to omens when we travel, because they can be very unique and wonderful and maybe precisely what we need to be experiencing, not just in the here and now, but in answer to a broader aspect of our lives. Like me seeing a turtle as an omen in the clouds as I arrive on a vacation might be very much, a message to me that I need to come out of my shell. It might be an omen that means I need to slow down. It might be an omen that means I need to be on the land and in the water. There's so many possible ways that particular omen could be speaking to me and to you and to the third person.
What I'm wondering about are, there have been times where I could see signs in everything, and with the creative mind, it's easy to find designs and ferret out symbols.
Mm-hmm.
And when is one pushing it and laying the imagery on what is before them versus receiving an omen? How do you know that boundary?
Mm-hmm. That is a really good question. As we develop ourselves as spiritual beings more and more, we begin to experience omens literally in everything. And as you were saying, if you have a creative mind, or if you're somebody who has done a lot of shamanic journey work, or you're a very, very experienced meditator with a strong practice, you have allowed your spirit self to expand exponentially. And so things begin to pop out at you in ways that they perhaps didn't a few years ago or at some other time in your life. Perhaps not since your childhood, because in our childhood, we don't have, our busy mind, we don't have the kind of busy mind that we have to have as adults or choose to have as adults. So children are much more apt to see patterns and omens all the time. And adults are much more likely to just kind of shrug them off. But to answer your question, there is no such thing as the excessive experience of omens or the excessive experience of patterns in things. All of that is speaking to your creative mind, to your imagination, which is what drives the train, really. If you don't have imagination, then you don't have a train to go down the reality track, so to speak. So I don't think that there is any way, from my perspective, that somebody who's on a spiritual path and really seeking to be in harmony with all that is can overdo the omens that they experience, the patterns, the signs, the symbols that they see in things, because it is the way they're experiencing the fact that there really is no separation. In the end, we're all one. And the more we expand our capacity to see and live and breathe in this reality where everything is vibrantly alive and interacting with us all the time, then the more blessed we are and the more enlivened we are by the fact that we are, in fact, truly one with all that is. So, from my perspective, I don't see how that can be overdone. I prefer to see people really sharpen their inner eyes, really become more attuned to how everything around us is interacting with us all the time. And the more we open ourselves to being available to that interaction and that intercommunication, the more we are able to evolve as a human species and create peace and love and harmony here on this blessed earth that we live on.
Do you recommend keeping a journal or in some way honoring the omens, especially when you're traveling, that come to you?
That is a very good idea. Keeping a notebook about any of these things, keeping a journal or making sketches, anything like that is helpful because we think we're going to remember them all, but we often don't because we're being with our unconscious self or with our inner eyes, as I said earlier. And just like we think we're going to remember our shamanic journeys, but unless we record them in some way over time, often a very short amount of time, the content of that journey is gone. So, yes, I think that is an excellent idea, and I would encourage people to, keep a journal or carry a notebook or sketch or paint something that you're experiencing as an omen and be with it over time.
Thank you for these answers. This completes the questions I came with. Do you have any other information you would like to add on omens?
I would like to end this series on omens by just saying briefly that I encourage people, as I said a moment ago, to really truly live their lives knowing that they are not alone, that they are surrounded by numerous spiritual energies that are working with them and communicating with them and being with them at all times. And the more you open to that, the more you will be fully experiencing the truth of us being all one, that there is no separation, truly, no separation. I encourage you to tune in again next week when I will be either addressing a completely new topic or perhaps answering some of your questions that you may have. If you go to dorycote.com, DORYCOTE.com, you will be taken to these audio files, and there'll be a place where you can ask questions, suggest another topic you would like to hear about, and I will respond to your questions or address a particular topic. And if that does not occur, then I will choose a topic for next month. In the meantime, be blessed. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for listening to Dory Cote on Shamanism. We'd love to hear your thoughts, stories, reactions, and questions. Come on over to dorycote.com and join the conversation. And tune in next week for more on this subject, or next month for a new subject. You can subscribe to this podcast in iTunes or sign up on dorycote.com to receive notices when the podcasts are posted. That's Dory, D-O-R-Y, and Cote, C-O-T-E.com. Drumming and rattling by Dory Cote and Terry Morgan. Technical assistance and audio production by JillHackett.com. And this is Susan Savelle, wishing you many blessings in your life. We hope to have you join us next time.